Hey everybody, Mark Lieberman here, coming to talk to you about getting people's attention. Yeah, that's how I like to do it. I like to be big and bold, but that's just my personal style. I'm not here to teach you my personal style. I'm here to help you find a style that works for you. So we're going to look at a number of different styles today and give you some ideas that you might feel most comfortable with. We're going to look at introduction ideas, and we're going to look at conclusion ideas. This may be the first time you'll hear me say it, but I'm going to say it again and again. Don't forget the conclusion. The conclusion is super important. It's the takeaway thought. It's what people are going to leave remembering your speech. So let's first start to look at some introductions. So there's a whole bunch of different ways that we can go about getting our introductions. But what we're trying to do is grab your audience's interest. So if possible, we're trying to build identification. We're trying to get in the audience's mind that you, the speaker, are like them in some way so they can relate to you, right? So that they know, oh, I'm kind of like this person. Oh, this person shares some of my interests. So we tried to go down the avenues of, I'm like you. I live in this community. I'm like you. I pay taxes. I'm like you. I'm going to the community college. That one's kind of an obvious for this crowd, right? Go for the obvious. It's not a problem. Sometimes it's the best. We could talk about other things people have in common, like a pet peeve, something that really gets to you. Like, does this bother you too? And then you tell a story. Maybe you got a parking ticket, right? Anybody who's ever got a parking ticket is probably going to agree that it bothers them too. You'll never believe this shocking story, and it can happen to you too. And then you tell a story that nobody would expect. Maybe your aunt is just walking down the street and there was a crack in the sidewalk, twisted her ankle, fell over, broke her leg, and got hit by a bicycle. Like something crazy. That'll get people's attention. And guess it could happen to them because they walk down the sidewalk too. So there are a ton of great ways to build that identification and grab that audience's interest. So many that we're going to look at a big list. First, we can look at like a story. We call it a narrative. People think in stories. That's all there is to it. We don't necessarily think in blocks of information. Some of us do, very few of us do. They usually wind up becoming mathematicians. Most of us think in stories that we can relate to in our lived experience. So you tell a story and people can remember it. It's a real easy thing for people to remember. Or you could start off with a quote. Something like, just because a meme has a quote next to a famous person doesn't mean you can believe it. Abraham Lincoln, 1863. Right? Like that would grab people's attention. It's not a real quote, obviously, but it's something like a quote and it would grab people's attention. There are a ton of great people to quote. Quote Martin Luther King. Quote Abraham Lincoln. Quote your grandma. Like no big deal. People like quotes. You could make a reference to a current event. You could tell an audience, your civil rights right now are in danger. People are going to be paying attention. You could reference a historical event. Like, on this day in 1932, and you just talk about what happened. So long as whatever you say is a somewhat interesting story, that historical reference, people tend to like that type of thing. You could talk about a startling fact. By the year 2060, most of you will be alive, but 1 out of every $3 you pay in taxes will just go to the national debt. Boom! People pay attention when you talk about money, and they certainly pay attention when you talk about taxes. You could ask a question. This one usually works best in person. When you ask a question and you actually call on some people in the audience, or you look for those eyes where people will be willing to answer and engage with you, it's a great way to start bringing the audience in. Another great way? With some humor. Jokes tend to be kind of risky. Cicero, way back in the Roman Empire, who was alive right around Julius Caesar, noted the danger of starting with a joke. If you're really sure that joke is going to hit and be great, go for it. But unless you're positive if it falls flat, it is really hard to come back from that type of negative first impression. That said, a funny story, especially if it's about yourself, maybe when you were walking down the sidewalk and hit a crack and fell off, maybe something embarrassing happened and not necessarily that dangerous. Funny stories people like, and they usually do well. You could give a hypothetical situation. Imagine you're walking down the sidewalk and a person you don't know comes up to you in a black mask and starts talking to you. Right? Something that could happen. It's a hypothetical and people will probably be paying attention. You could do a demonstration. And this is how you make wonderful food real easy. People love food. Most things attached to food will grab people's attention. You could make a personal reference. And that same aunt, when she broke her leg, won $500,000 in the lottery the very next week. Boom! People are going to be paying attention. Maybe it's something that happened to you. You won $500,000. Well, you might not want to tell everybody that you won $500,000, but won $500 in a contest would certainly get people's attention. I've seen that speech. It works really well. You could refer to the audience. Something like, so you all look like intelligent people. I'm sure from here on, ba 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 ba. Right? And then finally, you reference an occasion. Wow, here we are at our final speech in this wonderful class. It's a nice opener that everybody can relate to. Remember, we're trying to find things that the audience can relate to us as people. So let's talk about a rhetorical question for a moment. A rhetorical question is a question that doesn't really want an answer. The answer is so obvious. The person who's asking the question doesn't expect you to actually answer it, but rather is just trying to plant an idea in your mind. I'm here to tell you it doesn't work very well. You'll hear a lot of advice. Hey, start off with a rhetorical question. But I'm here to tell you from experience, and I've been doing this for a long time, it often falls flat. When a speaker says, what color is the sky? And it's the very first thing they say, a lot of audience members, blue, but they're not necessarily captivated. But if you combine it with a couple of these techniques that we're talking about, now you could really be cooking. Now you could really be in business. We talked about starting with a startling fact. So if you said something like, in 2019, 224 Americans died in mass shootings. Do you want this to be you? Right? That do you want this to be you part is the rhetorical question. And combining it with a startling fact, like, oh wow, that is somewhat startling. Oh, and now you're talking about me. When you combine it with another technique that we're discussing, it could really do you some good. So, let's look at some conclusions. A lot of these things are going to be similar to your introduction. In fact, you're almost always going to want to conclude with a summary of your speech. And so now I've told you, if we're talking about making food, so now I've told you a great and easy way to make stir fry in your own home. I told you how to prepare the vegetables, I told you how long to cook the vegetables, and I told you how to toss them in the sauce, right? Nice conclusion is that package that people take away from your speech, and that's what they remember. And then one of the best ideas is to connect it to your introduction. Connect it to your intro. Whatever it was that you used in your intro, a startling fact, a fun story, a historical reference, use that again in your conclusion. For the same reason, it wraps it all together, gives it one piece of memory for your mind to neatly store and retrieve when necessary. You could offer another quote. You could say something like, Nelson Mandela said, "Fools multiply when wise people are silent." And then just walk away. That's the end of your speech, right? The big walk away is oftentimes a good technique. You could offer a challenge. Maybe you're talking about Meatless Monday, and this is a persuasive speech, and you're trying to persuade people to eat less meat. You could end with a challenge. So I challenge you to take on the Meatless Monday challenge. You can reference the audience. Again, we're trying to build that identification. We're trying to get them to feel as though they know us or that we are in their community. So something like, hey, I did this. It was awesome. And you can do it too. Right? You're just referencing the audience. You could offer advice. So the next time you are offered to enter a contest, take 10 minutes to fill out the form. Well, 10 minutes would probably be a long time, but you get the idea. You could propose a solution. So get out of here and use this phone number to call your city council representatives. That is a fantastic speech. Typically, when we get a call to action, like proposing a solution to call a senator or the president, we don't think those people are ever going to listen to us. And in fact, we would be one of many voices, though they do want to hear from us. But our city council representative, now they're interested. They don't have a whole lot of voters or even people that live in their district, whether they can vote or not, reach out to them and tell them about their problems. So you could ask a difficult question and just walk away. That's one of my favorite. So what are you prepared to do? And then you just walk away. Give it that pause. What are you prepared to do? And then just turn your head and walk away. It is a fantastic way to somewhat startle the audience with their conclusion, give them something they weren't necessarily expecting, and it really makes for a memorable close. One of my other favorites is to tell them to visualize the future. If you're trying to get your audience to enjoy Meatless Mondays, then you want to get them to visualize how good they will feel because they feel more healthy. You could get them to visualize how much it'll be easier to get up in the morning, how much they will feel light and less bloated. Visualize how healthy you will be in your 80s when you're 87 years old because you've participated in this good eating habit and now you can play with your grandchildren, right? Visualizing the future is a great way to get people to remember your speech. But most importantly, and conclusions are super important, we want to conclude with a summary of our speech. We want to tell them what we told them, and you want to connect your conclusion to your introduction. So that's our look for introductions and conclusions. Thanks for your time.